Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and walk you through your first movement mission in the VEX for virtual worlds. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go to File and I'm going to open up my sample template and I'm going to find my Project Lead the Way folder, the PLTW folder, and I'm going to open up the PLTW template. Okay. At this point, I'm going to make sure under Robot, I'm going to change my compiler target to Virtual Worlds. Okay. And then under Window, I'm going to select Virtual World to use as the curriculum companion. Okay. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and hit the button Compile Program, and then I'm going to click Download to Robot. And that's going to take my program and send it to the virtual world. At this point, my program doesn't really have anything except for task main, which is the building block, the start of any program that I'm going to be writing. Alright, at this point I can log into my CS2N account. Your username is just the username you use to log on the computers, and then your password is your external password. Alright, so now I am in the virtual worlds. If I click on the different tabs, I can see the different movement challenges that I will be completing. You want to make sure you complete just the challenges that have been assigned to you and you complete them in the order. So the first one I'm going to be doing is driving straight 1. I can also click on robots. When I click on robots, I can see the different types of robots that I can select for this challenge. The only thing you got to note is that each of the robots, some of them have different spots where the motors are going to be wired into. For instance, the Swarf bot has right motor being in motor 2 and left motor being in motor 3. If I go to Square Bot, same thing, 2 and 3. Buggy Bot, 2 and 3, that's fine. But if I go to Claw Bot, you got to understand that it's actually the left motor is in motor 1 and the right motor is in motor 2. So when I do my first challenges at the beginning, I want to make sure I choose one of the ones that has the right motor and left motor in motor 2 and motor 3. That way I don't send a program that's incorrect with the wiring. So I'm going to select my right motor is going to be motor 2, my left motor is going to be motor 3. Okay. At this point, I don't have any code, so if I were to select the Square Bot, for instance, and then go to Movement and select Driving Straight 1, if I start the activity, the way that I start running the program into Virtual World is by hitting the play button. If I were to do that, my robot's not actually going to do anything because I haven't told it to do anything yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I am going to go ahead and set up my robot for this first challenge by setting up the motors. So I'm going to click back. I don't have to close out of the virtual world. I can just click back on the robot C. I'm going to go into robot and I'm going to go into the motors and sensors setup. Okay. So I had 2 motors. Under port 2, if I looked back at and I can go back to my home page, I can go back to my robots. Under port 2, under motor port 2 was my right motor. So under port 2, I'm going to give my motor a name, something that makes sense and has meaning. Right motor is going to be a good choice. I capitalized the second word. Then the type of motor, I need to change this from no motor. And I'm going to select VEX 393 motor. That's the majority of the motors that we have in our class are 393 motors. That's usually going to be the one that you use. When you create physical robots, if you end up with a smaller looking motor, it's probably the 269 motor. So you would actually select that one if you were using that one. Under port 3, and I can go back to check if I want to. Okay, motor port 3 was my left motor. Okay, so I'm going to go back. And I'm going to type in a name, left motor, and I'm going to name it, I'm going to select the type, which is VEX 393. Very important, you got to make sure you hit apply down here. If you just hit OK, it won't save any of this stuff. So I'm going to hit apply. Okay. So now at the top, I can see that I've set up 2 motors. Under port 2 is my right motor, and under port 3 is my left motor. Okay. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type in my task description. This is the overall goal of what I want my robot to do. In the movement, in the driving straight one, I want to go from the start line to the finish line from one end to the other without bumping into a single object. So that's basically my task description. Okay. So the robot should travel from the start line to the finish without bumping into any objects. Okay. Now in my pseudocode, this is where I actually want to type out step by step what the robot needs to do in order to go forward. So since my robot has two motors, one controlling the right and one controlling the left wheels, in order to get my robot to move straight, I'm actually going to want to turn on each one of those motors. So I'm going to turn on left motor. And let's say we do, how about full power? That would make it go the fastest. Turn on left motor at full power. I'm going to turn on my right motor as well at full power. Alright, and then I want it to go for a certain amount of time. I don't know exactly how long yet, so I'm going to wait wait enough time until it reaches the finish. So I may have to do some trial and error to find out how much time I have to wait to reach the finish line. Okay, so now I'm ready to write some code because I have my pseudocode written. Okay, so I'm going to click into task main. Any code that you write needs to be inside of the curly brackets of task main in order for the robot to read it. Under natural language is where I have all my commands, and I'm going to go under movement because I want my robot to move. And I'm going to go ahead and drag in start motor. So I'm going to drag that into task main here. Anything inside of parentheses I need to replace. Okay, so under motor port, I'm telling the robot where that motor is plugged into. Now in this case, we called one of our motors right motor, so I'm going to type in for motor port right motor. Okay, and then I also need to replace the speed. My options, I can go over it, are between negative 127 to 127. So if I want it to go at full speed, that's going to be 127. So I'm going to replace the speed with 127. All right. Now I'm ready for my second line of code. So I'm going to start my right motor. I'm going to start my left motor. Just going to drag it in there. Okay. I need to tell the program where the motor is located. Okay, so left motor was the name of it that I gave it. I'm going to go ahead and tell the speed. Alright, the speed is full power. And then I'm going to have my wait command. So I'm going to wait for a certain amount of time. And there may be some trial and error here. So I'm going to wait for time in seconds. And let's give 3 seconds a shot. So we'll replace my wait time with 3 seconds. Okay. Now I am ready to give my program a try. So I'm going to compile it first. Make sure I don't have any errors that come up. Alright, looks pretty good at this moment. So I'm going to go ahead. I didn't get any X's, red X's in here that signify that things aren't working right. And I'm going to download to my robot. You need to make sure you hit download to robot whenever you make any changes. And I'm going to try driving straight. I'm going to hit start activity. And to get my program to run, I'm going to click the play button. And we've got a problem here. My robot just spins around in a circle. If I keep hitting play, it will run the program again. This means that one motor is going forward and the other one is going backwards. That's why it's just kind of spinning. So what I actually need to go back and do is I need to jump back to my program and go under my motor and sensor setup, and I need to reverse one of these motors because right now the way that they are hooked up to my my robot is making them go in different directions, and my robot's not going straight. I'm going to hit apply, and OK. And then once again, I need to download it to robot so that it gets sent to the robot. Okay. Now I can click on my virtual world. I'm going to reset my robot so it gets back to the original position. That's this spinning thing. It stops the robot and returns it to the start of the challenge. It brings me back, and I'm going to go ahead and play. And there we go. My robot is going forward. But it looks like it didn't quite go forward far enough. Alright, so I'm going to go back, and I'm going to make a change to my program. Since my robot didn't go far enough in 3 seconds, I'm going to change it to, let's say, 4 seconds. And I'm going to download that to the robot again. I'm going to reset my program, and I'm going to get play again and see if it goes far enough. And it says success, so I can continue on to a different challenge. Now, one funny thing that could happen, and for me it didn't happen the first time. If you go under motor and sensor setup, I actually reversed the proper one, but if you reverse the wrong one, depending on the robot that you're using, if I were to download this to my robot, what would end up happening is my robot would actually go backwards, because I ended up reversing the wrong motor, and they ended up both going in the wrong direction. So what I would do at that point is I'd reset, I'd go back to motor and sensor setup, and I would switch which one I was reversing. That way they were going forward when I had them at 127 speed.